Noctis Noctis. Subscribe to Vincent Valentine EX Turk channel.
What's up, guys? You're kicking out Vincent Valentine EX Turk. Kind of glad I'm going back to rocking the classic hairdo. Just a little bit, just because my hair is a little greasy, but we're not talking about hair here. We're talking about Final Fantasy. And this Final Fantasy segment will be, before I get to streaming, because I might stream, I might not. Who knows? And by the way, this needs to be seen so people know where to get it. But anyways, this is going to be another Final Fantasy segment. This is actually about Final Fantasy XIII. And this is a theory that I came up on my own, so bear with me before smashing dislike buttons and calling me a bunch of obscenities. Well, let's get started. Was Final Fantasy Type 0 technically the first story, first chapter to happen to Final Fantasy XIII? Instead of Final Fantasy XIII, we're going to call it the Novia Crystallis, the Fabula Crystallis Novia, because that's what it was. And 15 was a part of the original one, but thanks to 15, take this Final Fantasy 15 changing and becoming what it is, it's no longer part of the Fabula Crystallis Novia. So we're not going to count 15 in this storyline. Now, we can deduce from the opening of Type 0, this is exactly how the fal'Cie and l'Cie became. This was an opening talking about the origin story of the fal'Cie and the l'Cie. You know, we already know the fal'Cie were the bad guys, the l'Cie were the good guys. The original ones. These are the original ones. And then schools, you know, monasteries, military schools, monasteries, empires were made off the two things. As the Militescent Empire is more on the side of the fal'Cie, academia was on the side of the l'Cie, since they trained their students to become l'Cie. So, this will also put another fan theory on this, without even meaning to. But could this mean that Cid, could this mean that Cid or Rulestein, the main bad guy from Type 0, the one that's had the badass Steve Blum, Vincent Valentine voice acting boy returning for the role of the guy who looks like a pretty much Nazi general, Cid or Rulestein. But okay, with all jokes aside, could Cid or Rulestein be known as the first fal'Cie? As you see him transform in the final battle, the final judgment. And the final judgment was Cid passing judgment on all the teammates from Academia. Because if you didn't know, Academia was set up because Academia carried out an assassination mission earlier on and killed a public figure, realizing that they were set up by the Militescent Empire. Yes, Final Fantasy and their empires. Let it all out. But that's pretty much how it is. So, pretty much what I think probably happened, you know, is now the kids from Academia has to face judgment. That's why there's continuous wars until you get to the final judgment. Could the final judgment be the birth of the first fal'Cie? Because you see Cid or Rulestein transform. He jumps into that red stuff. It's not lava. It's part of the red blood thing that come out as something else. Come out like a machine. And if you know anything about the fal'Cie are machine-looking gods. Look at Benevelza. Look at Bartandelonis. Look at Orphan. Look at even Pulse. Lindsay. Now, we haven't seen what the original Etro looked like, so we don't know. We haven't seen the previous Etro. But we know we've seen pictures of Lindsay, Pulse, and they look machine-like, just like Benevelza does, like Orphan does, like Bartandelonis does. So they're fal'Cie, just so you know. They're fal'Cie. And this is before the Sanctum. The Sanctum only happened in Final Fantasy XIII. And the reason why I want to say this is the first game in the Crystallis Novia, you know, first chapter of the Crystallis Novia, is Academia comes back in Final Fantasy XIII. Now, if they're in the same universe, which that's what they are, Academia is located in Final Fantasy XIII as well. Now, I don't know if it's in the original 13 or not, because I haven't got that far at 13.1. But 13.2, you know, Hope becomes the leader of Academia. And Academia looks like a futuristic, beautiful city. Now, I'm sorry I can't get no Final Fantasy 13 cutscenes in this, because I'm using SHAREfactory. I'm not using my laptop right now, so I don't have no clips of Academia and Final Fantasy 13.2. You're just going to have to go look up Final Fantasy 13.2 Academia City. But Academia City looks like a futuristic version of Academia from Final Fantasy Type 0. So, whatever happened in this game was probably put in the record books, considering that Hope has said that there are records. Like, there are things that happened before. And we don't know what those things are. And since in the Fabula Crystalline Novia, Type 0 is still confirmed as part of the Fabula Crystallis Novia. And they still have l'Cie and fal'Cie as the two sides. So what that means is that they kept a record in Academia, meaning Type 0 is officially canon. That's what Hope says. Now, you don't know what happened, but they reference it. It was slowly referenced in Final Fantasy 13.2. Because 13.1, we were just learning about what l'Cie and fal'Cie is, so they didn't have time to put that in that game. This, at 13.2, we traveled different times, so we had time periods where we could go look at records, or at least ask Hope what happened. And what that means is that Type 0 is confirmed to be in Final Fantasy 13 because it's a Crystallis Novia game. And what part is it? I still think it's the past, considering look at the architecture in Type 0. And look at Final Fantasy 13. Final Fantasy 13 looks futuristic. Even more futuristic than Final Fantasy VIII did. So what happened is, this is Pulse. This is Pulse in at least a little bit earlier years than Final Fantasy 13. So if that's the case, could it be possible that Cid Rulstein, the bad guy from Type 0, is it possible that he's the first fal'Cie and the first l'Cie War Class 0? Because you get the path, and in Final Fantasy Type 0, you get two kind of paths in Final Fantasy Type 0. You get the path to become a l'Cie or stay as a human. You stay as a human, you get the bad ending. But if you become a l'Cie, you get a better ending because you're immortal. Of course, depending on what you do in the game. Whether you sacrifice Kurosami or you keep Kurosami in your party. It depends. This game is a very situational. This has like 5 different endings. But no matter what endings it has, Class 0 existed through Final Fantasy XIII's history and lore. You know, so it has existed. Of course, it is already confirmed to be canon. The only one that's not canon is 15, because 15 has cut off every ties to Fabula Crystallis Novia. And we already know who we could thank for that. Same names to account the compilation. Thanks, Tetsunorma. But no, Tetsunorma's a good designer. I just wish he didn't do that. That's just to my displeasure. But to each their own. You know, maybe it's a good thing that Final Fantasy 15 became its own thing. That way, we had a Final Fantasy 15. So again, the jury's out on that one. But nonetheless, my theories I have on this is that this was the first chapter to happen in Final Fantasy 13 lore, or Fabula Crystallis Novia, to actually showing it up. Because the intro shows the beginning of the l'Cie and the beginning of the fal'Cie. That's why it's possible that Cid Rulstein was the very first fal'Cie, because Cid Rulstein only wanted to test Academia. That's why they tricked them to go on an assassination mission, so Sid Rulestein could say, see, these guys are the bad guys, to get the world government to go after them to see how powerful these kids are. Because he just wanted to see, that's what the final judgment meant. That's what the final judgment is. When you go into that one place, if you defeat the world government, you take on Sid head on head in his Foul C form. So Sid Rulestein is the first Foul C. Well, I wouldn't say exactly. Maybe Benevelza could have been the first Foul C, because Benevelza is the god of the Foul C, because he created every single Foul C. But, you know, since Benevelza's technically not in the world of Pulse, he was not in the world of Pulse. He only figured out the world of Pulse because everything Caius did to the timeline. So Benevelza put his arc to save that world, because Benevelza was in tears to see that, you know, that some of his creations were going to get killed off due to Caius fucking up the timeline. Which, thank you, Caius. Thanks, Caius. You know, but no, in all seriousness, though, yes, I guess Benevelza could be technically the first Foul C, I mean, but he was never in that world. And if this is the beginning of the first chapter of the Fabula Crystallis Novia, I gotta learn how to say it. Sorry to say that 3 times fast. But if he's he's in the, he'd be right in Lightning's Return and the end of Final Fantasy XIII too. So if this is the beginning when he's not in this world, so technically that makes Sid or Rulestein the very first Foul C, to, you know, and why the final judgment exists, no matter what path you take. Now, Emina is very much a huge character in this, whether you believe it or not. She may not fight and all that stuff, but in the comic, there's a comic book for Final Fantasy Type 0 where there's a segment out there. Now, she will play a big role in this later on, because maybe she is the secret record keeper that kept records in academia all this time. Because the reason I say this is there's so many books in her shelves, so maybe she's keeping a record of everything that happened, because she's a major character. We don't know, but she's a major character. She's more than just fan service and final fantasy. She's the fan service that makes sense, if you were. That makes you think. Why does Emina keep all those books in there? Because those are records she kept. And those records end up going into the future. Meaning it goes into future Pulse. And when Academia is being built in Final Fantasy XIII 1, and because you could time travel Final Fantasy XIII 2, Final Fantasy XIII 2, those books still stay at Academia. And that's how they were able to figure out everything that happened previous. So, I think that Final Fantasy Type 0, and this is a fan theory, remember, this is a fan theory, I'm not saying this is official. I'm not saying Square Enix coins this, so before we get mad and say, oh, your trash theories are unprofessional, these are trash theories. Just think about it. If Type 0 is connected to Final Fantasy XIII being part of the Crystallis Novias, thus, even with the cutoff of 15, this would have to be the first because of all the architecture and everything. All those books go in the future. And there's records of everything that happened in Type 0 into Academia. Plus, the very first Foul C is the final boss in Type 0. Because remember, Benevelza is not in this world. He created many worlds in that universe, but he never oversaw every single world he made until Caius pulled the whole entire destroy the universe with messing up the timelines. Now tell me what you think in the comments below. May the crystal be with you. And remember, this is a fan theory, so let's keep the anger and rage to a minimum if you could.